6-month review of the Skmei 1412, a tough budget beater.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to Frugal Watchbox channel. Today, we're taking a look at the Skmei 1412 after 6 months of rough use. Is this $3 budget watch just a cheap throwaway, or has it proven itself as a solid work companion? Let's find out. Now, if this watch looks familiar, that's because it's a straight-up copy of the legendary Casio W-59. Both watches share that classic retro digital look and a 50-meter water resistance rating, making them suitable for daily wear and even a bit of swimming. But there's one key difference. I use my Casio W-59 for casual wear because I've upgraded it with a real leather strap, while the Skmei 1412 is my dedicated yard work warrior. For the past 6 months, I've put this watch through some serious yard work abuse. Digging, trimming, hauling stuff around, and even getting covered in mud. It has survived it all without missing a beat. I've even taken it swimming in a river, and guess what? No leaks, no fogging, nothing. This little $3 timepiece just keeps going. Of course, after all that action, the Skmei 1412 does have some battle scars. The case, bezel, and even the crystal have picked up scratches, but honestly, that's expected when you're putting a watch through this kind of work. The important thing? It still functions perfectly. No screen glitches, no button malfunctions, no weird condensation inside. For a watch that costs less than a cup of coffee, I'm honestly impressed. Now let's talk price. The Skmei 1412 costs just $3, while the Casio W-59 is around $13. That's a $10 difference. And while the Casio is definitely the better built watch, I'd rather not beat it up in the yard. That's why I wear the Skmei for the dirty work and keep the Casio looking fresh.
Compact and lightweight.
Before we dive into my 6-month review of the Skmei 1412, let's take a moment to talk about something crucial, the size. Because while this watch has proven its toughness, it's also compact. And for some, that could be a deal maker or a deal breaker. So, let's break down the numbers. Case diameter, 35 millimeters. Lug-to-lug distance, 38.2 millimeters. Thickness, 9.1 millimeters. Lug width, 18 millimeters. Weight, approximately 22 grams. These dimensions make it a super lightweight and wearable watch, perfect for both men and women. If you have a medium or smaller wrist, this will feel just right, comfortable, unobtrusive, and easy to wear all day. Now, if you have larger wrists, you might find this watch a little too small. The 35 millimeters case and short lug-to-lug distance give it a classic retro digital vibe, but some people prefer something chunkier on their wrist. If you're used to wearing something like a G-Shock or a 42mm Plus watch, this might feel like a toy in comparison. That being said, the compact size makes it incredibly versatile. Whether you're wearing it casually, using it as a beater watch, or even as a subtle retro-style accessory, it works for almost any occasion. The 18mm lug width also means you can easily swap the strap if you want to customize the look.
Scratches, buttons, and battle scars.
Alright, now that we've covered the size and wearability of the Skmei 1412, let's take a closer look at the case, bezel, crystal, and buttons. After 6 months of rough use, this watch has definitely seen some action, and it's got the battle scars to prove it. But does it still hold up? Let's find out. The plastic case and bezel have picked up notable scratches, especially around the edges. But honestly, it's not that bad. These are the kind of scuffs and marks you'd expect from a beater watch that's been through yard work, mud, and even river swims. If anything, these battle scars add character, kind of like a badge of honor showing this watch has done its job. Now let's talk about the crystal. As you can see in this video, there are visible scratches on the surface. It's not a sapphire or even mineral glass. It's just basic plastic, so scratches are inevitable. But despite that, the display is still perfectly readable, and there are no deep gouges or cracks. Not bad for a $3 watch that's been through a rough 6 months. The Skmei 1412 has 3 buttons. Right side button, controls the alarm on off, and toggles 12/24-hour mode. Still working with no issues. Left side buttons. Top button activates the backlight. Still functions as expected. Bottom button controls the mode settings, switching between time, alarm, and stopwatch. No sticking or malfunctions here. Honestly, I expected at least one of these buttons to start failing after all the dirt, sweat, and water this watch has been exposed to. But nope, they're still working just fine. Despite the scratches on the case, bezel, and crystal, the Skmei 1412 is still fully functional. The buttons haven't worn out, and the display remains easy to read. For a $3 watch, that's pretty impressive.
Dial and display, a budget copy that holds up.
Alright, we've covered the size, case durability, and button functionality. Now let's take a closer look at the dial and display. After 6 months of use, I'm happy to report that the screen still looks great, and all the imprints are holding up surprisingly well despite the scratches on the crystal. One thing I noticed is that the printed details on the crystal haven't faded at all. The bold Skmei logo sits proudly at the top. Just below it, there's a blue horizontal line, a nice touch that gives the watch some color contrast. Further down, you'll see the imprint for Water 30M Resist, with the 30M highlighted in red. On the right side of the small display panel, there's a gold-colored imprint reading Alarm Chronograph. Surrounding the small display panel is a white border, which frames the screen neatly. For a cheap digital watch, it's impressive that these imprints haven't worn off, even after all the mud, dirt, and water exposure. If you're familiar with the Casio W-59, you'll immediately notice that the Skmei 1412's display is a direct copy. Top left corner, small indicators for alarm, hourly chime, and PM or 24-hour selection. Middle section displays the day of the week clearly. Right side shows the date. Bottom section, the main time display, with large digits for hours, minutes, and seconds. The layout is simple, functional, and easy to read, just like the Casio W-59. So far, no signs of fading or pixel failure. The LCD is still crisp and clear. This is especially surprising for a watch that costs just $3. Many cheap digital watches tend to lose contrast over time, but this one is still going strong. At this price point, you'd expect some degradation, but the Skmei 1412's display is still holding up well after all the abuse. The printed details on the crystal remain sharp, the LCD remains readable, and it continues to mimic the Casio W-59 perfectly.
The PU band, scratched but still going strong.
Now that we've gone over the dial and display, let's move on to an often overlooked but important part of any digital watch, the PU band. After 6 months of use, including yard work, dirt, and even river swims, how well has it held up? Let's check it out. The PU band has definitely picked up some scratches and scuffs over time, but that's completely expected. With all the rough conditions I've put this watch through, I was half expecting cracks or splits, but surprisingly, there are none. The band is still intact, flexible and comfortable to wear. The strap retainer or keeper, which often wears out first on cheap PU bands, is still doing fine. It hasn't stretched out or broken, meaning it still holds the strap securely in place. No annoying flopping around. Flipping the band over, you'll find some imprints, just like on a Casio watch. There's a small arrow indicating the direction to push the bar or pin when removing the strap. Some serial numbers are also stamped on the underside, further mimicking Casio's design choices. It's clear that Skmei has taken direct inspiration from Casio, down to the small details. While it may not have the same long-term durability, after 6 months, it's still holding up surprisingly well.
The case back, a budget build that holds up.
Alright, we've checked out the case, display, buttons, and strap, so now it's time to flip this watch over and take a look at the case back. While it's not the premium stainless steel you'd find on higher-end watches, it has held up surprisingly well over the past 6 months. One thing missing here is the usual stainless steel back imprint you'd expect on many watches. That likely means this is just ordinary metal, rather than true stainless steel. It's still metallic and sturdy, but might not be as resistant to rust and corrosion in the long run. After months of yard work, dirt, and even swimming, there are some noticeable scratches on the case back. But the good news? The imprints are still perfectly clear. None of them have faded. Here's what's engraved on the back. Model number, clearly printed, no signs of fading. Skmei logo, still intact, proving it's not some unbranded knockoff. 5 ATM water resistance, marked in the center, confirming its basic splash-proof capability. Battery code, CR 2016, found along the outer ring, making future battery replacements easy. For a $3 watch, the caseback is held up well despite constant wear and tear. Sure, it's not high-end, but it's doing its job.
Viewing angles, a bit of ghosting, but still readable.
Now, let's talk about the display quality and viewing angles. A digital watch should be easy to read at a glance. But does the Skmei 1412 deliver? Well, yes and no. Let's break it down. When looking at the Skmei 1412 from certain angles, you'll notice a bit of ghosting, meaning you can still faintly see digits or letters in the background that shouldn't be visible. It's not a deal breaker, but it's definitely noticeable, especially when you tilt the watch off center. In contrast, the Casio W-59 has a clearer display from every angle I tested. No ghosting, no weird afterimages, just sharp, high-contrast digits no matter how you look at it. That's the difference you get with a slightly higher quality LCD screen. For a $3 watch, I wouldn't call it a huge problem. The display is still readable in most conditions, and unless you're constantly checking your watch from extreme angles, it shouldn't be a major concern. However, if perfect readability from all angles is a must for you, the Casio W-59 is the better option.
The backlight, surprisingly good for the price.
Now, let's move on to one of the most important features of a digital watch, the backlight. A watch is only as good as its readability in low light, and this is where the Skmei 1412 really shines. Literally. The Skmei 1412 features in blue EL, electroluminescent, backlight, which is a big deal for a budget watch. Unlike basic LED lights that just cast a weak glow from the side, EL backlighting evenly illuminates the digits and letters, making the time easy to read in total darkness. This is one of the main reasons I bought this watch. A cheap digital watch with a proper EL backlight is rare. Let's be honest. Casio makes great watches, but the LED backlight on the W-59 is pretty bad. It's the same weak single LED setup as the F91W, which barely lights up the display. In low light, you have to squint to read the time, and if the viewing angle is off, it's even worse. On the other hand, the Skmei 1412's EL backlight is crisp, clear, and much easier to read. Casio should really start putting EL backlights in their budget models. Skmei proves that it can be done at a low cost.
The alarm, louder than expected.
Alright, let's talk about something many budget digital watches get wrong. The alarm. A good alarm should be loud enough to wake you up, or at least grab your attention. But at this price point, expectations are usually low. So how does the Skmei 1412 perform? Surprisingly well. The alarm on this watch is shockingly loud for a $3 watch. It's sharp, clear, and rings for a good duration, making it actually useful. Some cheap watches have weak, barely audible beeps, but this one is strong enough to be heard even in a noisy environment. If you need an affordable backup alarm, this could genuinely work. Sure, it won't replace your phone alarm, but if you're the type who needs extra reminders throughout the day, this gets the job done. For just $3, I expected the alarm to be either too soft or too short, but nope, Skmei over-delivered here. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this alarm is on par with more expensive digital watches.
Water resistance test, still holding strong after 6 months.
Now, let's talk about something that can make or break a budget watch: water resistance. The Skmei 1412 claims to have 5 ATM, 50 meters, water resistance. But does it actually hold up after 6 months of real-world use? Time to put it to the test. To check if the seals are still intact, I did a simple but effective water resistance test. 1. First, I ran under tap water for a few minutes, simulating rain, splashes, or accidental spills. 2. Then, I fully submerged it underwater in the sink for a while, with running water flowing over it. A more intense test, simulating what could happen if you dropped it in a puddle or used it in very wet conditions. After both tests, the Skmei 1412 came out completely fine. No fogging under the crystal, no malfunctioning buttons, and most importantly, no water inside the display. For a $3 watch, that's impressive. Many ultra-budget watches fail basic water tests over time, especially after months of use. But this one? Still going strong. It survived the test, but I wouldn't push it too far. Skmei claims 5 ATM, which is fine for splashes and washing hands, but probably not for serious swimming or showering. After months of use, the seals can weaken. It's best to avoid pressing buttons underwater, as that could let moisture in. Casio's W-59 still has an edge here. With its 50M rating, the W-59 should be more reliable for actual swimming.
Wrist check. Small but stylish.
Now, let's see how the Skmei 1412 looks on the wrist. A watch might survive scratches, water, and yard work, but if it doesn't look good when worn, what's the point? With its tiny case size, the Skmei 1412 sits perfectly on my 6.5-inch wrist. It's lightweight, just 22 grams, meaning I barely feel it on my wrist throughout the day. No bulk, no discomfort, just a simple, easy-wearing digital watch. This watch is a blast from the past with its classic 80s-style digital display. If you love retro digital watches, you'll appreciate the design. The thin profile, only 9.1 millimeters thick, keeps it looking sleek, while the simple resin case gives off those classic Casio W-59 or F91W vibes. For those with bigger wrists, the Skmei 1412 might feel a bit too small. But let's be honest, if you're into retro digital watches, you probably don't mind a smaller size. The Casio F91W and W-59 are also compact, yet they have a huge fan base. It's all about that old-school charm.
Features breakdown. Simple yet functional.
Now, let's take a closer look at what the Skmei 1412 brings to the table. It's a budget watch, but does it still pack enough useful features to make it a good, everyday beater? Let's break it down. The Skmei 1412 boasts a 50-meter water resistance rating, which is better than many budget digital watches. While not meant for deep diving, it can handle rain, hand washing, and even light swimming. In my own 6-month test, it survived tap water, sink submersion, and even river swimming, so I'd say the water resistance is legit. This watch keeps it simple, but covers the essentials. Timekeeping displays hours, minutes, and seconds, just like any digital watch should. Chronograph, stopwatch mode. Need to time a workout or a cooking session? The built-in stopwatch has got you covered. Alarm, surprisingly loud and long, making sure you wake up on time or remember important tasks. Date and day of the week display. No need to check your phone. The date and day are always on screen. 12/24 hour time format. Whether you prefer AM/PM mode or a 24-hour military-style clock, you can toggle between both. EL backlight. The electroluminescent EL light is bright and only illuminates the digits, making it much clearer than the dim LED backlight on the Casio W-59.
Who should buy this watch?
Who should buy this watch? After testing the Skmei 1412 for 6 months, we've seen that it's tough, water-resistant, and packed with essential features. But is it the right watch for you? Let's break it down. 1. Budget watch seekers, the $3 champion. If you're looking for an ultra-affordable digital watch, the Skmei 1412 is unbeatable. At just $3, it offers a classic retro design, useful features, and surprising durability. Whether you need a backup watch, a gift, or just a cheap daily beater, this is a solid choice. 2. Retro watch lovers, classic 80s style. Love Casio's iconic W-59 or F91W, but don't want to spend extra? The Skmei 1412 is a near-identical homage, featuring the same compact case, digital display, and simple functionality. If you appreciate retro digital watches, you'll feel right at home with this one. 3. Outdoor and work watch users, a reliable beater. I wore this for yard work, muddy tasks, and even some swimming, and it held up shockingly well. If you need a no-nonsense, worry-free watch for tough environments, the Skmei 1412 is up to the task. Save your fancier watches for casual wear, and let this one handle the rough stuff. 4. People want a lightweight and comfortable watch. At only 22 grams, the Skmei 1412 is so light you'll forget it's on your wrist. The compact size, 35mm case, 9.1mm thickness, makes it a great choice for those who prefer smaller watches or just want something that won't get in the way. 5. Kids, first-time watch users and gifts. Looking for a simple, durable, and affordable watch for kids or beginners? The Skmei 1412 is perfect. It's easy to read, has an alarm, stopwatch, and backlight, and won't be a big loss if it gets misplaced. Who might want to skip this watch? If you prefer bigger watches, this might feel too small, especially on larger wrists. If you need top-tier reliability, Casio's W-59 is a safer bet for long-term use. If you want premium materials, remember that this is an all-resin $3 watch. It's not winning any luxury awards. The Skmei 1412 is a fun, functional, and ultra-affordable digital watch that punches way above its price tag. Whether you're on a budget, love retro watches, or just need a tough beater for outdoor work, this little watch gets the job done.
Final verdict. Is the Skmei 1412 worth it?
After 6 months of daily use, yard work, water tests, and even some rough handling, the Skmei 1412 has proven its durability. Sure, it's a budget-friendly watch, but it punches way above its $3 price tag.
Pros and cons.
Pros. Super affordable. At just $3, it's a no-brainer for a backup or beater watch. Retro digital charm. A near-identical homage to the Casio W-59 at a fraction of the price. Decent water resistance. Survived my tap water and submersion tests with no issues. Surprisingly durable. Took scratches, mud, and rough handling like a champ. Bright EL backlight. Way better than the dim LED on the Casio W-59. Lightweight and comfortable. At just 22 grams, you'll barely feel it on your wrist. Cons. Might be too small. At 35mm, it's great for smaller wrists, but could feel tiny on larger ones. Casio W-59 is more reliable. If you want a long-term, proven performer, the extra $10 for the W-59 might be worth it. Build quality is what you'd expect for $3. It's decent, but don't expect it to last a lifetime. Bad viewing angles. Some noticeable ghosting at certain angles, making the display less clear compared to the Casio W-59. Would I recommend it? Absolutely. If you need a cheap, durable, and functional digital watch, the Skmei 1412 is an easy pick. It's perfect for casual wear, outdoor work, or just as a backup watch. While it won't replace a Casio, it holds its own surprisingly well, especially considering the price. I think that's the end of the video, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing and giving it a like. It really helps out the channel. See you again in the next one. Bye for now.